Today, I want to show you just how good fighting types can be in Generation 3. I'm going to beat Pokemon Emerald using only Primeape. Rules for the challenge are in the description. In terms of base stats, Primeape is not really the best Pokemon. It has 65 HP, 95 speed, 105 attack, 60 special attack, 60 defense, and 70 special defense. It's got a medium fast growth rate. Obviously today, running an adamant nature makes the most sense, increasing my physical attack and lowering my special attack, because Primeape really isn't going to be using any special moves. Yes, it does get coverage in the form of Thunderbolt and Thunder, and through Move Tutor it gets Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, and Fire Punch, but these tutor moves are only available through BP in the post game, and I won't have access to them during this solo challenge. So really only Thunderbolt and Thunder are the special moves it would be using, but I'm probably just gonna bypass those because unless I'm fighting a Gyarados, I'll have better physical options. Primeape starts with Scratch, Leer, Low Kick, and Rage. Then through level up it gets Karate Chop at only level 15. Beyond that, the rest of its level up moves are essentially irrelevant. Stuff like Fury, Swipes, Focus Energy, Rage. I guess Cross Chop is kind of good, but 80% accuracy is not excellent, unless the Pokemon has no guard. Primeape only has a single ability, Vital Spirit, so I will not be able to use my favorite move, Rest. And that basically leaves this evolutionary line with no recovery moves. But that's okay, it's a fighting type. It is absolutely gonna crush Hoenn. You can see the start of that at the very first trainer, youngster Calvin. He has a single Poochyena, which of course low kick one-shots. Now I don't want to do that much optional training in the early game. I'm mostly just gonna fight trainers that Primeape can beat very quickly, because I will need some levels in order to beat Roxanne. I fight the Aqua Grunt in the forest on minimum battles. The experience levels Primeape up to 7. Then before Rustboro City, I fight the one Rich Boy, knocking out his Zigzagoon in a single hit. That takes me up to almost 8. So I'm going to do optional training inside of Roxanne's gym now against the 3 trainers here. They have rock-type Pokemon, so they're fairly quick to knock out, and doing all of this brings Primeape up to level 10. With an Oranberry equipped, I should be able to defeat Roxanne. I was expecting that Low Kick would 2-hit the level 12 Geodude, but it doesn't because the first one goes for Defense Curl. Then Roxanne uses a potion, and this is consuming more PP than I would like. The second one is identical. As a result, I have only one use of Low Kick left over by the time I make it to the Nose Pass. But there is a way to play around this. I don't want to be using Scratch or Rage, it'll just take way too long. Instead, I can just spam Leer until the Nose Pass goes for either Block or Tackle. It won't use Rock Tomb right now until it sees that it can get the KO on Primeape, because Primeape's speed has already been lowered, and the AI views Rock Tomb as a speed control move. This takes way too long. I wish it was faster. Anyways, we're burning a little bit of time here, but it doesn't really matter in the end. Once I've got Nose Pass's defense stat all the way down to -3, it goes for Tackle, and then I use Low Kick, easily one-shotting. That's the first badge, and with it, Primeape gets a 10% boost to its attack stat. This is one of the reasons fighting types are so fantastic in Generation 3. The first badge boosts your primary offensive stat. It also gives me access to the TM for Rock Tomb, so I have a little bit more type coverage in the early game. Although this TM is not incredibly useful because Brawly is the next leader. Speaking of that, that means I will get a fighting type TM very soon. But I need to make sure that I prepare for him well enough, so I'm gonna fight some extra trainers before the cave, and then I also take on the optional rival south of Rustboro City. After getting back through Petalburg Woods, I take on the lady outside here. She has just a Zigzagoon. I probably should have fought her before Roxanne to make that fight a little bit easier. I pick up my HM users, head to Dewford Island, grab the Silk Scarf, and then explore Granite Cave, delivering the letters to Steven Stone. While I was doing this, I realized that I should still do more training. My Primeape is only level 14, so inside of the gym, I can fight all of the fighting type trainers here. Some of them are a little bit scary. They have Meditite, which know Confusion, and it gets the same type attack bonus. But the first 2 don't cause any issues, so I felt like it was fine to fight the third lady. And then the Meditite gets a critical hit with Confusion and completely obliterates Primeape. I of course blacked out here, keeping all the experience from the other trainers. I hadn't saved before her. I also don't really want to fight her again. I'm level 16. That's over the damage rounding threshold at level 15. And maybe Primeape is going to be okay fighting Brawly now. First of all, the Machop is annoying, because while Karate Chop is doing half, it likes to go for bulk up on the first turn. We're going to talk more about this move in just one moment. Anyway, I need to clear the Machop, and Brawly wants to use super potions on it now. Luckily, Karate Chop has a raised critical hit ratio, so it scores crits 25% of the time, and this easily allows me to one-shot the Machop, bypassing the bulk up boost. Meditite can only attack with Focus Punch, so this is simple, but then the Makuhita makes things more complicated. While Low Kick does weight-based damage and inflicts a lot to the Makuhita. It then uses Vital Throw, bringing Primeape down to red health. Also, it heals with a Citrus Berry, which kind of dashes my hopes. Unless I get a critical hit right now, I am going to lose, and unfortunately I don't, so that's my first reset. But in the next fight, things go much better. The Machop does not set up with bulk up, so I 2-hit it. Then, on the Makuhita, I have significantly more health left over. Low Kick does more than half, Vital Throw takes me to orange, but this time after the Citrus Berry, my Low Kick does just enough and the Makuhita faints. So better damage rolls are what gives Primeape the win here. And now, after defeating the second gym leader, I am going to get another major accelerant for fighting types. TM08, which is Bulk Up. This move increases your attack and your defense, and unlike Curse in Generation 2, you do not lose speed. I do so many solo challenges. I basically play at least 1 or 2 every single day now. Out of all of the games that I'm playing, I think this might be the most broken TM that is given to you by an early gym leader. There is only one copy of it in all of Pokemon Emerald, so I'm going to put it on Primeape's set, and from here on out it will be stuck there until the end of the playthrough. So Bulk Up is amazing, but Earthquake is also a great move, and Primeape does learn it. So on Slateborp Beach, I pick up the Soft Sand to increase ground-type moves' damage. Now, you would think this would be useful in combination with Earthquake, that was what I was assuming. However, it'll be useful for another purpose in just a little bit. As was the case with the early game, I'm going to continue skipping optional training. Even fighting the people inside of the little soda pop house where you get a bunch of free healing items from defeating 3 trainers, I don't think Primeape needs that extra experience. I go straight to the museum, clean up the trainers there, and then head north towards the rival. I'm confident enough using a fighting type in this game that I'm going to skip the rare candy in the trick house because it takes too long to obtain. Okay, Rival 2 is next. This one's fairly simple. He starts with a Lombre, which is a terrible lead Pokemon. It usually likes to go for Nature Power, which turns into Swift and doesn't do much damage, especially as I'm setting up with Bulk Up. Remember that in Generation 3, Swift doesn't deal special damage, it deals physical damage because the damage category that a move is assigned is based on that move's typing, not based on the move itself. Normally around Wattson's gym, I train on optional trainers. In this case, I am only going to battle the mandatory people that I need to come back to later. Doing this brings Primeape close to level 23, and its speed is 54. This is the perfect position for Primeape to be in to walk the tightrope against Wattson, who is the next gym leader. He leads with a Voltorb. I'm going to knock it out as fast as possible with Karate Chop, because it's much more advantageous to set up on the Electrike, which is second. The reason is, it likes to match your setup using Howl, so as I set up Bulk Up, it just continuously spams Howl, and now that I've leveled up to 23, I am faster than all of Wattson's remaining Pokemon. The Manectric has exactly 55 speed. After setting up to +4, I figured that I would one-hit his remaining Pokemon, so I knock out the Electrike. Even though it paralyzes me with Static, I have a Cherry Berry to cure the status condition. As a result, I can move first against the Magneton and one-shot. I was a little bit worried the Manectric was going to choose Quick Attack, but it doesn't. Probably because it's trying to prioritize Thunder Wave to reduce my speed. This is an advantage of moving first against it. So Wattson is easily defeated. Now if you're a fighting type and you have low speed, well, Wattson's badge will help you there because it increases this stat by 10%. This is not really a big advantage for Primeape. From here on out, now it's going to have so much speed that it will easily move first against every significant threat. Well, maybe there'll be some Crobats that'll move first, and they could be nasty since they're flying types. Heading north towards Fall Arbor Town, I pick up the Secret Power TM and I teach this in the place of Scratch. This is a nice upgrade. As I pass through Fall Arbor Town, I grab the Dig TM. This I teach in the place of Rock Tomb, and it's also a nice upgrade because it's going to be super effective against Flannery. And it also gives me a way to play around Norman's Slacking. Before I face either of them, end though, I have to make it through Maxi on Mount Chimney. Even after Intimidate, Karate Chop still one-hits his Mightyena, although it did get a critical hit. Then Zubat comes in and Secret Power isn't able to one-shot. It uses Wing Attack and does a surprising amount of damage, roughly 1/3. From there I go back to using Karate Chop for the final Camerupt, but I'm doing uninspiring damage, roughly 1/3, and I think I will need 4 hits to knock it out, provided I don't get a critical hit. Then Camerupt scores its own crit with Magnitude, and this ends up being my second reset. Okay, maybe what I can do is set a bulk up against the Zubat. If it confuses me with Supersonic, I won't do much damage to myself because as my attack increases, my defense is also increasing. The increase in defense means I'll take less damage from Wing Attack, but in the end I'm not able to set up much because Zubat gets me down to yellow health pretty quickly. From there I go for Secret Power and knock it out. Okay, time to cross our fingers against the Camerupt. Primeape snaps out of confusion, uses Karate Chop, doing more than half. Magnitude rolls only 6, which is perfect, and Maxi's defeated. Of all the battles in the run so far, this one has definitely been the worst. Now speaking of things that are the worst, check out my play in this battle. Flannery leads with Numel, usually the perfect Pokemon to set up against. I'm gonna go for bulk ups here. While it's attacking me, it gets a critical hit, doing a lot of damage, and so by the time I get to +3 attack, I was wanting to cut my setup short of +6. I decided on +4, and then I go for it. Karate Chop one hits Numel, Slugma, and Camerupt, but her final Pokemon Torkoal is by far the most defensive. Now I was going for Karate Chop because it takes less time, it's not 2 turns like Dig, but by this point I had kind of forgotten about Dig entirely, even though I have the Soft Sand. I use Karate Chop and I fail to knock out the Torkoal, giving it an opportunity to use Overheat, one-shotting Primeape. Okay, so what if I went for Dig, the move that is actually super effective, that synergizes with my current held item? Well, in that case, Primeape is going to one-hit Flannery's lead and take an easy victory. Okay, Norman's Gym. There is actually a strategical way to fight the trainers in here. I don't want to go to the left initially because then I have to fight a Swellow, which is fast but also knows Wing Attack. Instead, if I go to the right, then I have to fight this Delcatty. The fact that Primeape is doing all of this close to minimum battles means that my level is not high and I can't actually one-shot it, which was surprising. The Wigglytuff in the next room makes more sense because it has outrageous HP, although I get a critical hit on the second turn after she uses a Hyper Potion, and then I get the one-shot. I make it to level 30, and then I'm ready to take on Norman. I assume this battle is going to be fairly easy. As a fighting type, we have a type advantage here. I can also set up bulk up with impunity because I have a Persim Berry. The Spinda can't confuse me with either Psybeam or Teeter Dance. However, it is doing decent damage. I only felt comfortable getting +2, but I can knock the Spinda out, and then against Vigoroth, who doesn't have a Psychic type move, I can continue my setup with bulk up. But it has Slash, so my health is getting kind of low. I'm just going to knock it and the following Linoon out. This way I get to the Slacking. Now, this is a hilarious matchup. I can use Dig. Every turn the Slacking is going to attack. Then I'm underground and it will never deal damage to me. There's another way if I had more health that I would want to play this, which is simply using bulk up every time it's going to attack, because then it can't use counter to deal massive damage. But I'm not sure I'll survive a Facade if I'm above ground. After 2 hits from Dig, I felt comfortable using Karate Chop with +3, and I knock out Slacking, earning myself the 5th badge. And with it comes a boost to my defense stat. Okay, so now we can summarize the badge boosts from the early game. Attack, speed, and defense. The only boost that comes late into the game is the special attack and special defense boost after you defeat Tate and Liza. But fighting types don't need those stats. I'm sure there's some niche scenarios you can think of that will prove me wrong there, but in most cases, fighting types don't need more special attack or special defense. Okay, brief mention of Thunderbolt. I could pick up this TM now, but I don't think it's going to be useful. I'm skipping it because it costs roughly 45 seconds to go and grab. For Primeape, I think that's the unfocused play. I would have done it like 2 years ago, but I've learned a lot since then. As I'm fighting Admin Shelly, you might be wondering why I haven't upgraded Secret Power to Return, since that TM is available after you beat Maxi on Mount Chimney. The reason is pretty simple. The steps you have to take to backtrack to Fall Arbor Town is just not worth it. I know I could loop around that way and then go through Meteor Falls to get back to Norman, but I still think that route is longer than simply cutting back through the middle of the map. And I don't really want return long term, because once I defeat the rival and make it to Fort Tree City, I'm going to pick up Hidden Power, which for this playthrough I have assigned as a ghost type move with 70 base power. Here's a little piece of trivia: with fighting and ghost type moves together, I will have neutral coverage against every target in the game. Bulk Up is going to be one of my other moves, and then the fourth slot will be filled by the best move in Generation 3. But before I get access to it, I have to collect some rare candies and then head into Winona's gym. Now, I was expecting that I might have to use the candies to increase my level in order to beat the flying type specialist. But before I do that, there are some mandatory trainers to clear. The first of them is Camper Flint, who has a Swellow and a Xatu. These two Pokemon are kind of terrifying for fighting types. The Swellow is quite fast with 82 speed, but Primeape is going to be moving first. The problem is, if I don't set up Bulk Up enough and then I use Karate Chop and I fail to knock out the Swellow, it can use Endeavor to drain my health. So that's a reset. I didn't even make it to the Xatu that's next. Granted, it's not very good. All I have to do here is set up 2 Bulk Ups, then one-shot the Swellow, and there's no problems. Okay, with the trainers cleared, now it's time to take on Winona. I'm a little bit worried about this one. In a playthrough of Hoenn, this is the first moment where fighting types start to sweat. Swablu is first. This isn't a great Pokemon to set up against in most cases because it has Perish Song, and in a solo challenge I can't switch out to get rid of the effects. So instead I just knock it out with Karate Chop at the beginning of the battle. Next is Skarmory, and I don't like to set up against this thing either because it has Sand Attack. However, I do think I need to set up somewhere, and I'm likely not going to 2-hit the Skarmory with my current damage ranges. I set up to +3, but on the way I do have my accuracy lowered by 1 stage. Now I'm able to 2-shot using Karate Chop and move on to the Tropius, and here I have a really unfortunate damage range. With the Silk Scarf, Secret Power at an effective power of 77 is just barely not one-hitting. It happens 2 times in a row, and then I miss. But luckily after that, the Tropius has healed with Synthesis, so I'm able to finally knock it out. Pelipper, of course, starts spamming Protect. I hate this stupid bird. Anyway, I'm also not one-hitting this thing using Secret Power, which is really frustrating. I am burning her Hyper Potions, but unfortunately for me, I'm also missing because of the accuracy debuff. So Pelipper is able to hit me with 2 Water Guns before I finish it off, and Primeape only has 8 hit points remaining for the Altaria. Unless I'm able to get a one-shot, I don't think this is going to be a win. Secret Power, of course, doesn't. Altaria goes for Earthquake and Primeape faints. What if I get risky at the beginning of the battle and spam Bulk Up over and over against the Swablu? If it crits with Aerial Ace, which does happen, then it inflicts a lot of damage. However, it doesn't look like it's using Perish Song. Instead, it's trying to prioritize things like Mirror Move or Aerial Ace. Mirror Move is absolutely terrible here. It just keeps failing over and over again. And because of that, I am able to set up to +6. From there, I one-shot the remainder of Winona's Pokemon. Okay, time to get rid of Dig. I'm going to teach Hidden Power in its place. In Lily Cove City, I faced the optional rival battle outside of the department store. He is required if you want to have access to this area. In this case, his team is really easy for Primeape to get through. Now, inside the department store, I go to the top floor where I can use this move tutor to teach the best move in Generation 3, Substitute, in the place of Secret Power. On one of the lower floors, I buy myself a bunch of vitamins, protein, and 1 iron, and then I use these to increase Primeape's attack stat and its defense. The reason I bought the iron is just because Steven's Stone is a physical attacker at the very end of the game. Okay, I need to talk about the Tabitha battle next, which is normally one I skip over in Emerald because this is never a difficult time. Unless I make a critical misplay using Karate Chop on the Zubat, giving it time to critical hit with Wing Attack. This did more than I was expecting, and I'm left with only 13 hit points. I am not going to one-shot the Camerupt, and it's gonna knock out Primeape. My last save was before Winona. Here's the thing though. Camerupt, instead of attacking with Takedown or Rock Slide, goes for Focus Energy, so I knock it out in 2 turns, move on to the Mightyena, which Karate Chop 1 hits. Alright, no problems after all. Now let's face Maxie. He has a Crobat, which is very fast, 110 speed, and Primeape only has 105. But this is where we get to see the advantages of using Substitute in Generation 3. I can set it up, block basically everything Mightyena has. It's trying to spam moves like Swagger or Scary Face, especially when your Pokemon is faster. It also has Roar, but it won't use this move until you reach +3 in one of your stage modifiers. So I can set up Bulk Up 3 times, countering out the Intimidate debuff, getting all the way way to +2 attack, and then because Roar has lowered priority, I can go for Karate Chop and knock Mightyena out. This leaves my substitute intact for the Crobat. It gets broken by Wing Attack, and Hidden Power is doing okay damage. Enough to put the Crobat into Super Potion range, so Maxie wastes his turn he could have been offensive, and with that the Crobat goes down. After that, it's easy to clean up the Camerupt. Okay, Rapid Fire. Matt's easy. This guy with Gyarados is a little bit sketchy, although I get a critical hit, aiding me in knocking it out quickly. Time to collect rare candies, one in Shoal Cave, then one south of Moss Deep City. But to get access to it, I have to clear this guy who has Swellow and Skarmory. Luckily, he's not much of a problem. But then I don't save before the next trainer. Her name's Athena. She has a Manectric which knows Thunder and Thunder Wave, and a Linoon with Surf and Thief. I get paralyzed by the Manectric because I didn't think I needed to set up Substitute against it. This is a bad call from me. As a result, I have to black out here because it does knock Primeape out. I come back, save before her, and in the next battle I use Substitute to block Thunder Wave. It looks like Manectric is just spamming this move, so using Substitute here makes this fight trivial. I get another one by Pacific Log Town, and then I head back to Moss Deep City to clear out all the Psychic-type trainers in Tate and Liza's gym. While doing this, I get to level 44, and from here I'm going to use rare candies all the way up to 56. I have a total of 12. This is because I skipped the one inside the Trick House. I was pretty sure this was more than enough to take on the Psychic-type specialists. Tate and Liza, they lead with a Claydol and a Xatu. I target down the Xatu so that it's not using Calm Mind or Psychic. Claydol, on the other hand, spams Earthquake, knocking out Zigzagoon and doing about a quarter to Primeape. Next, they send in Lunatone. It's more specially oriented than physically oriented, so I'm also going to target it with Hidden Power. With it out of the way, I have taken another quarter damage from the Claydol. I target the Soul Rock next, and it just barely survives. By the way, I checked my damage ranges right after this fight to see how likely it was for me to knock out the Soul Rock, and I have a 94% chance to knock it out with Hidden Power. So I just got quite unlucky. Due to this, after a Citrus Berry, I have to take one more turn to finish the Soul Rock. That gives Claydol one more attack, and it uses Psychic, knocking Primeape out. I roll the damage range again in the next battle. This time I one-shot the Soul Rock and I move on to the Claydol. Against it, Hidden Power one-hits, and with that, Tate and Liza are defeated. The Space Center battle is easy. Substitute, bulk up, sweep. The battle against Archie is also easy. It usually is. He's a really bad trainer in Emerald version. Next, I head into Juan's gym. I could, at this point in the playthrough, teach both Earthquake and Brick Break. I just haven't picked up Brick Break yet. It's a little bit annoying to do it because you have to talk to the people outside of the gym in order to get access to all the houses in Sutopolis City. I figured that Karate Chop was going to be more than enough against Juan, so I'll get Brick Break after. And I don't think I'm going to be using Earthquake in this entire playthrough. From here on out, I believe that I can manage every trainer with fighting and ghost type coverage. So let's see if the weaker fighting type move is enough against the water type specialist. Love Disc is first, and it spams Sweet Kiss so many times. Also, it's not going to break my substitute using Water Pulse. I get set up all the way to +6, and so yes, of course, Karate Chop is more than enough. I one-shot all of his water type Pokemon. After that, I grab Brick Break and I teach it in the place of Karate Chop, upgrading my effective power from 75 to 112. Next, I fight Wally. I'm mentioning him here just to set up something for later on. Right now, he doesn't look that scary, right? I just set up twice with Bulk Up and then I sweep all of his Pokemon. By the way, I even used the wrong move against the Gardevoir, switching to Brick Break, but it still does enough damage, so this is a simple fight, at least for now. With him out of the way now, Primeape is ready to go for the Elite Four. This video is all about how the fighting type is amazing in Generation 3, so check out how capable it is during the Elite Four. I can use Substitute against the Mightyena to block Sand Attack. Then while it spams this useless move, I can set up with Bulk Up until I get to +3. Mightyena has Roar, so I need to play around that and then knock it out. But from here I have super effective damage with Brick Break against every single Dark type Pokemon. So I just knock them all out in one hit. Time to do Phoebe. In this case, Substitute while Dusclops uses Protect. Then it cannot use Curse. This move will always fail if a substitute is on the field. It cannot use Confuse Ray. Protect also will just give me free time to set up. So really, I could go to +6 here if I wanted to, but I don't need to. +2 is more than enough to one-shot all of her remaining ghosts. The only question in my mind was, would the Sableye survive? But it doesn't. Glacia is next, and the fighting type is at the advantage here. By the way, I am setting up with Substitute and Bulk Up on the first Celio. This is unnecessary. Without any setup, I have a 70% chance to knock out the Wall Rain in one hit, so I should have just gone for the sweep. With her out of the way, this is where I wasn't sure if I had made the right choices up till now in the playthrough. Maybe I should have grabbed Return so that I could replace Hidden Power with it for Drake, because I'm not going to have great damage against his flying type Pokemon. That said, for the 4th time in a row during the league, he leads with a terrible Pokemon, which is very vulnerable to Substitute and Bulk Up. In this case, it does have a special move, which is Dragon Claw. That is able to break my Substitute, but it doesn't always go for this. Sometimes it's trying to speed control me with Rock Tomb, or it might just go for Protect again. If it uses Double Edge, I'll easily shrug that off after setting up Bulk Up. Because of how unlikely Dragon Claw is, I am able to get all the way to +6. And yeah, from there, Hidden Power, one hit, one hit, one hit, and one hit. All the flying types weren't an issue. I didn't really need Return, but it would give Primeape an easier time there, so maybe in the second playthrough I'll grab the normal type move when I'm in Pacifidlog Town. Up until now, even though it has 8 faults, this fighting type has really been crushing. Because of that, my confidence was very high, and I was not prepared for what was coming next. Wallace's first Pokemon is Wailord. If you set up Substitute here, you're gonna lose, because it has Water Spout, which does outrageous damage. The only play that I have available to me is attacking on turn 1. I didn't do that, so I'm in an awful position for the remainder of the battle. I tried setting up Bulk Up, but I can only get 1 turn in now. Because of that, I knock out the Wailord, move on to the Whiscash, but Brick Break doesn't have enough damage, and then it gets me with Earthquake. Brick Break on the first turn does more than half to Wailord, but sometimes it chooses Blizzard instead of Water Spout. In this case, I get Frozen, and Primeape doesn't defrost fast enough. When Wailord goes for Water Spout after Brick Break, it's doing 1/4 in damage, so I'm gonna have 2 turns to set up with Bulk Up before I have to sweep Wallace's team. Is +2 going to be enough? That's the question. I'm able to knock out the Wailord and the Whiscash, but against Tentacruel I wasn't sure. My best move here is Hidden Power. The damage range is going to remain a mystery because I get a critical hit, so Tentacruel does fall. Next is Ludicolo. Brick Break is good against this thing. That's kind of weird to say. It's nice having a move that can one-shot this annoying troll. Then Gyarados comes out, and I don't have a substitute in place, so I get hit by Intimidate, and I have to use Hidden Power to knock it out. Remember what I was saying about Thunderbolt? This might be the one niche use for this move. But if I taught it in the place of Hidden Power and kept both Substitute and Bulk Up, then I wouldn't have access to Hidden Power for the Tentacruel, and Thunderbolt would be much worse because Tentacruel has outrageous special defense. You might think I could forget Substitute, but I really can't because I require that move for my strategy against Steven's Stone. In this case though, there's another thing working in my favor, the fact that the Gyarados wants to set up with Dragon Dance. Because of that and Primeape's high speed stat, it is still faster than Wallace's penultimate Pokemon on the next turn, and Hidden Power knocks it out. Okay, one last question. Does Brick Break have enough damage for the Milotic? And the answer is no. As a result, it uses Surf, and that's another reset. By the way, I tried this fight using Earthquake in the place of Hidden Power. This gives me a more reliable damage range against the Tentacruel, but then I'm basically useless against the Gyarados. I have to go for Brick Break here. I even get a critical hit, and with +1, Primeape just barely doesn't have enough damage. If Drake is a reason to have Return, Wallace is the second reason, so I think by this point in the game, I should replace Hidden Power with Return. It's just going to be far safer. If I'm not going to have a substitute for the Gyarados because the Wailord is doing too much damage, then I either need to be able to get set up to +3, or I need to do more damage to the Wailord so that I can have a substitute. The problem with trying to do that is that then Wallace uses a full restore and heals it, so it's still doing decent damage with Water Spout, and it can break my substitute in one hit. I think the solution for this battle is straightforward. I need to try to get 3 bulk ups in. Doing this against Wailord is not going to work because it's doing too much damage. I take one more reset to the Gyarados before I figure out what I need to do. I'm going to knock out the Wailord as fast as possible. In this case with a critical hit. Then Whiscash comes out second, and it likes to use Amnesia, or it could be using Earthquake, in which case I'll take less damage because I'm going to set a bulk up against it. This is a far superior place to set up. I'm able to get all the way to +4. I thought I was going to one-hit the Gyarados, but because of Intimidate, I just barely can't. But Wallace gets caught in a full restore loop, and with Primeape being faster after only a single Dragon Dance, I'm able to knock it out. With that, Milotic is left, but Brick Break is easily doing enough damage. So Primeape ended up having a rough time against the champion, but it is still possible for it to clock in with a time under 1 hour and 20 minutes. And that is historic if it does end up happening, but I've still got to manage Steven Stone. Thing is, I was really confident. I am not even going to pick up the leftovers. Instead, I just grab one rare candy, and then I get stuck on this one tile where you can exit the water. Why did they allow that to happen? They should just put a rock there or something. This is really frustrating. Also, why do you have to talk to the water every single time you want to surf? It seems like after you have a Pokemon with surf in your party, you should just be able to walk onto the water tiles and immediately make a seamless transition. Anyway, no leftovers. Also, this last rare candy I picked up, I accidentally feed it to my Halo, so I'm not going to have that for Steven either. Let's see how it goes. Skarmory is first. This is why I want Substitute. It loves to use Spikes and Toxic, but it doesn't know when you have a Substitute in place. If it uses Toxic enough, then I can set up with Bulk Up to the point that my Substitute won't be broken by Aerial Ace. Every time it does use Aerial Ace, prior to this threshold, I will have to reset up Substitute, so it's not able to inflict Toxic. This always seems like a sketchy strategy, but it really isn't. I have played a bunch of runs doing this now, and it usually works out. Sometimes you have 1 or 2 resets, but they're pretty quick because you're resetting to the first Pokemon in the battle. Eventually though, I'm going to lose enough substitutes that I will just have to attack, and in this case that's at +5. I have roughly 1/4 health left over. I knock out the Skarmory using 2 hits of Brick Break, and then I move on with the battle. Armaldo is a 1-hit, Metagross comes in next. I go for Brick Break here again because it does better damage, and I'm not able to one-shot. However, Metagross misses with Meteor Mash. Because of that, and exclusively because of that, I am able to move on to the Claydol, which Hidden Power is super effective against. Aggron goes down to Brick Break, and so does Cradily. So on my first attempt against Steven Stone, with some good luck, I am able to clock in with a final first playthrough of Primeape, with a time of 1 hour, 18 minutes, and 58 seconds. With 13 faults consisting of 11 resets and 2 blackouts. Primeape finished the game at level 66, with a game time of 4 hours and 38 minutes. For my current skill level, this is an outrageously good first playthrough, and that is even with a bunch of faults, and I think there is a lot that we can do to improve Primeape's time. I came back in for my second playthrough, and the early game threat that I really have to solve is Brawly. I want to minimize the faults that I have against him while still getting through the early game quickly. These two goals are a little bit hard to balance with each other. I tried many times at level 15, but he just completely stomps Primeape when you try at that level. At 16, things are not much better, but around 17, it starts to feel a little bit more reliable, and 18 fundamentally changes the battle. To back all of this up, I like to show damage ranges so you can get the exact numbers. At level 15, Karate Chop has an 86% chance to two-shot the Machop, and that is if it doesn't use Bulk Up on turn 1. Also, please ignore Low Kick's damage ranges. It's just not calculating damage based on weight. It is doing all of the wrong things here, so in some cases it will be better than Karate Chop, like against the Makuhita. If I go up to level 16, then Karate Chop is always going to two-shot the Machop, which is pretty good, and if it gets a critical hit, it will always one-hit. At level 17, these damage ranges are essentially unchanged, although Karate Chop is now able to two-shot the Makuhita, giving me some upside for using Low Kick. And if I bring Primeape up to level 18, it goes over a damage rounding threshold, which doesn't really improve either the Machop or the Makuhita, but it does help out against the Metatite, although that isn't necessary. For this reason, I don't think level 18 is needed here. So my goal for this fight was starting at level 17. Here are the optional trainers that I fight in order to make that happen. Lady Cindy and her Zigzagoon, all of the trainers inside the gym before Roxanne, then both of the hikers prior to Rust Turf Tunnel, as well as Bugcatcher Jose, although this one was just a mistake. He's a spinner and I wasn't being careful enough. I also fight this generation's youngster Joey, who has a single Machop, the optional battle against Brendan, as well as Lass Haley with her 2 grass types, but I am specifically doing this one after Roxanne, so I'm a higher level and I one-shot both of her Pokemon. I fight youngster Billy on the beach for the same reason. I don't like fighting the Seedot at a lower level because it can use Bide and Harden together to make your progress through the game grind to a halt. Then inside the gym, I can fight a bunch of trainers, leveling up to 17 and even just past this, so that I will level up to 18 during the fight against Brawly. I think overall, I trained a little bit too much here, but it makes Brawly easy, so I have no delays in the early game. From there, we need to talk about Bulk Up uses. So on Rival 2, I'm going to use Bulk Up 4 4 times. This ensures that I one-shot the Marshtomp. I don't think this is strictly required. Against Wattson it is though. If I want to one-shot the Manectric, then I need to have +4. But this is really easy to do against the Electrike, as I showed before. Okay, so remember how I said the soft sand was going to be really important? Yeah, it is. Not here against Maxi. In this case, I am just setting up against the Mightyena. I know that it can use sand attack, but sometimes it won't, like here. So I get set up to +2 and then I sweep his team with ease. Here are my base damage ranges against Flannery's team. Using Dig, I can one-shot both the Nummel and the Slugma, but I have to 2-hit the Camerupt and I'm going to 3-hit the Torkoal. If I set up with Bulk Up just once, then I 2-hit the Torkoal, but I don't really like this because Overheat does a ridiculous amount of damage, 71% to 84%, and that is without Sunny Day. If I use Dig, then I give the Torkoal an option to use the setup move and potentially one-shot me. The obvious, more reliable approach is to set up multiple times on the Nummel and then one-hit the Torkoal. With 3 Bulk Ups, I cannot do this, but with 4, as well as the Soft Sand, I have an 88.3% chance to one-shot the Torkoal. By the way, I didn't learn this in a fun way. I actually played an entire playthrough all the way to Flannery and then didn't one-hit the Torkoal and it knocked Primeape out, and I was really confused, and then I realized it was because I was skipping the Soft Sand trying to save a little bit of time. So the Soft Sand is the answer here, and that's its only niche in this playthrough. Now for Winona, I think setting up Bulk Up on the Swablu and then sweeping is the best play. I also was going to run Rock Tomb in the place of Dig, but I unfortunately forgot and clicked on her a little bit too fast. So I do have 1 reset, but then I teach Rock Tomb and I'm able to crush her team. Going all the way to +6 just wastes time. At level 56, I want to show you the Tate and Liza damage ranges I had from my previous playthrough. Hidden Power Ghost has an 18% chance to one-hit the Claydol. There is a small damage range where you can one-shot without a critical hit. Other than that, you have to rely on crits. And against the Solrock, we have seen before the consequence of the 94% chance to one-hit with Hidden Power Ghost. If I go up over just 1 damage rounding threshold, 2 levels higher, then everything here becomes so much more straightforward. Number 1, without a critical hit, Earthquake cannot 4-shot Primeape, so I have 1 more turn in the battle. Number 2, the Solrock is a guarantee, and number 3, the Claydol should be knocked out with 1 hit. I have a 64.8% chance to get it. Using this more conservative strategy, I get a first attempt victory against the Psychic-type gym leaders. Teach Brick Break before Juan, then crush his team. It's really easy with this better fighting-type move. Even if you're just running Karate Chop, you only need 3 Bulk Ups in order to one-shot every single one of his team members. Now, I mentioned that Wally was kind of problematic, and yeah, this is because of a critical hit. So I'm setting up Bulk Up against the Altaria, like I was last time, figuring that it's going to do nothing when it attacks with Aerial Ace, but then it gets a massive critical hit and one-shots Primeape. I didn't expect this, so I'm gonna black out. It's only a small time loss. It's more funny than anything else, but it is a stain on this run that I wish I could wipe away. Okay, Sydney, you only need to set up once so that you have neutral attack, then you can sweep his whole team with Brick Break. Against Phoebe, set up twice, this ensures one-shots against all of her Pokemon. I don't need to set up for Glacia, as I mentioned before, so this is just a clean sweep. Then for Drake, I have taught Return in the place of Hidden Power Ghost. If you think Hidden Power Ghost is required for Steven, it isn't. With Fighting-type moves, they cover 5 of his Pokemon, with Return covering the Claydol. When you're running a moveset with Fighting and Normal moves against Steven's Stone, then you will usually 2-shot the Skarmory, but that's not the worst thing in the world. Using Return here means I only need +3 in order to sweep his team. And with Return, I need less Bulk Ups on Wallace as well. This time only needing +3, because with +2, I can one-shot the Gyarados after Intimidate. For the late game, I am going to play slightly more conservatively here. I'm picking up the leftovers. This is because last time I won exclusively because Meteor Mash missed. I don't want to have to rely on that this time around. At level 67 with 6 turns of Bulk Up, I am going to be able to one-shot the Metagross 59% of the time. The Skarmory is an 88.3% chance to one-shot using Brick Break, and everything else is a guaranteed 1-hit. With Return only being on my set because I can't teach Primeape Rest, and I want to use it to one-shot the Claydol. If you're wondering about the consistency of this strategy against the Skarmory, here's your look at it. I get set up to +6 on my first attempt, no resets to Steven Stone. I sweep through his team, and on my second playthrough with it, Primeape gets a time of 1 hour, 13 minutes, and 7 seconds, with 2 faults, 1 blackout, 1 reset, at level 68, with a game time of 4 hours and 40 minutes. So how good are fighting types? Well, in my first playthrough with it, Primeape has got the new top spot. It beat out Solrock's first playthrough time of 1 hour 35 minutes and 24 seconds. That just seems terrible in comparison with Primeape's result. Also, Bayonet had a time of 1 hour and 37 minutes, so these Pokemon are really far away from the fighting type. In terms of follow-up playthroughs, Primeape doesn't do quite as well. Blaziken and Swampert's S-tier performances are under an hour and 10 minutes. And Primeape was not able to beat out Medicham's follow-up playthrough, so today it earns itself the second placement in the A tier. It's a little bit behind the fighting psychic type. Medicham had a time of 1 hour 11 minutes and 56 seconds. But Swampert, on the other hand, got a time of 1 hour 6 minutes and 32 seconds, with Blaziken leading the charge with an outstanding time of 1 hour 5 minutes and 32 seconds. And even though Primeape wasn't able to get the first place spot, my point is still proven. Of the top 4 Pokemon, the only Pokemon currently ranked in the S tier and the A tier, 3 of them are fighting types. And the top ranked Pokemon overall, Blaziken, is a fighting type. Hopefully you see all of the little ins and outs that make these Pokemon really good in this game. Substitute and Bulk Up, that pretty much sums it up. Also, early access to a move like Bulk Up really accelerates progress. Unlike in a game like Fire Red, where Bulk Up is obtainable but in the mid-game. And if you're wondering why Psychic types haven't been performing as well as you would expect, the reason comes down to a couple of factors, which I will go over in another video. For example, this one. Check it out if you haven't already seen it. If you support me on Patreon or through YouTube memberships, thank you so much, it means the world to me. Now, if you have made it this far, you're incredible. I'll see you in my next video.